Jack Miller never expected his life to change over a single dollar. He was just a mechanic living on Mars Outpost 12, a dusty little repair shop near the mining zone. Every day was the same. Broken bots, fuel leaks, and dealing with angry clients who didn't want to pay. He didn't have much, just a rusty toolkit, a small garage, and Grub, his old, clunky robot assistant with more sarcasm than software updates. Jack had one dream, to someday own his own ship and leave Mars for good. But dreams were expensive, and Jack was broke. One slow afternoon, while scrolling through Marstradnet for cheap junk to fix and resell, something strange caught his eye. It was a listing that simply said, "Space pod, damaged, $1, no returns." Jack blinked. A space pod for 1 credit? That had to be a joke. He checked the listing again. No photos, no details, just coordinates for pickup and a warning that it was in poor condition. Most people would ignore something that's suspicious, but Jack wasn't most people. He didn't have much to lose. It's probably just scrap metal, he muttered, but even scrap's worth more than $1. Without thinking too hard, Jack clicked buy. 3 Martian days later, a slow-moving cargo drone dropped the pod outside Jack's garage. The pod was in worse shape than he expected. Burnt panels, cracked windows. Half of the hull looked like it had been dragged through an asteroid storm. Grub scanned it and beeped, warning, unknown life form signals detected inside. Jack rolled his eyes. It's probably just rats or leftover biojunk. But curiosity tugged at him. What kind of pod sends out a life signal? He grabbed his tools and carefully pried open the main hatch. What he saw inside made his heart stop. There were 4 large cryosleep capsules inside the pod. Each one glowed faint blue, and inside each capsule was a woman, but not human. Their bodies shimmered slightly. Their skin had soft patterns like constellations. Their hair floated gently inside the capsule, as if underwater. They weren't dead. They were frozen, still alive. Jack stumbled back. This isn't a junk pod. It's a damn science ship. Grub beeped again. Life signs stable. Species unknown. Cryostasis systems active. Jack didn't know what to do. Wake them up. Call the authorities. Sell the pod. He stepped back into the garage, locking the door behind him. He had seen enough shady things on Mars to know this wasn't ordinary. Then something blinked inside the pod. A small screen lit up near one of the capsules. It displayed one message, warning, Omega-17 escapees, do not open. Jack's face went pale. Omega-17, that was a name he recognized. A top-secret prison rumored to hold the galaxy's worst criminals. No one ever talked about what happened inside. No one ever escaped. Until now. Grub, Jack said slowly, what are the chances this pod came from Omega-17? Grub beeped again. High probability. Suggest immediate report to Galactic Guard. But Jack didn't call anyone. Something about the women didn't feel dangerous. They looked peaceful. One of them had a scar under her eye. Another had glowing silver tattoos along her arms. He didn't know why, but he felt like they weren't criminals. They were victims. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He kept staring at the pod, wondering what kind of story hid inside those frozen bodies. Then, without warning, one of the capsules made a loud click. Steam hissed. Lights flickered. One of the women was waking up. Jack grabbed his laser spanner and aimed it toward the capsule. Heart pounding, the glass slid open with a quiet hum. The woman gasped and fell forward right into Jack's arms. Her skin was ice cold, but her breathing was steady. Her eyes slowly opened, glowing violet in the dim light. Where am I? She asked softly. Jack stared at her in shock. Mars Outpost 12. I found your pod. I bought it. You bought it, she whispered. For $1. She blinked. Then, to Jack's surprise, she let out a soft laugh. It echoed strangely, like music. You have no idea what you've done. Human. Jack stepped back. Are you dangerous? The woman looked toward the remaining capsules. Then she turned to him with a sharp, focused gaze. We are not the danger, but the ones chasing us, they are. And now that you've opened the pod, they'll come for you, too. Before Jack could ask another question, Grub beeped in panic. Unidentified surveillance drone detected. Moving fast. Scanning area. Jack ran to the window. Two drones flew past black, sleek, military grade. They weren't from Mars Police, and definitely not from any mining company. He turned back to the woman. "What do I do?" She looked him in the eye. "You run, or you fight. But either way, you're part of this now." Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat in his broken garage, staring at the alien woman now resting on his workbench. Her name was Rhea. That much she had told him before collapsing again from weakness. Her skin glowed softly in the dark. Her breath was steady, but Jack could tell she wasn't fully recovered. His mind raced with questions. Who were these women? Why were they in a prison pod? And what kind of people or creatures were chasing them? Grub beeped quietly beside him. Life signs stable. Cryo damage minimal. First subject recovering well. Jack muttered to himself. First subject, that means the others might wake up soon. Rhea stirred. Her violet eyes opened again, more alert now. She slowly sat up and looked at the 3 remaining cryo capsules. "We need to wake the others," she said in a soft but serious voice. "We don't have much time." Jack hesitated. Wait. Are you sure that's a good idea? I don't even know who you are, or what you are." Rhea looked at him. "You opened the pod. You brought me back. That means you made a choice, even if you didn't know it." Jack shook his head. "I didn't sign up for any of this. I thought I was buying scrap." She nodded. "You were, but destiny works in strange ways." Before Jack could argue more, one of the other capsules began to blink. Lights on the side flashed green, and steam hissed from the edges. Jack stepped back. "Another one's waking up." Rhea stood and walked to the pod. As it opened, a second woman fell out, coughing, her eyes sharp and glowing green. Her skin was darker than Rhea's, and her body was built like a soldier, muscles tight, stance strong. "This is Thera," Rhea said. "She's our protector." Thera's eyes scanned the room. "Where are we?" she asked quickly. "Mars Outpost 12, Jack answered. "I found your pod. Bought it, actually." Thera looked at Rhea. Confused. "He bought us, for $1, Rhea said with a dry smile. Thera frowned. "That's a bad price." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You're welcome." Grub interrupted the moment with a sharp beep. Warning. Unidentified drone approaching. Military pattern. 300 meters and closing. Jack ran to the window and peeked through a crack. Sure enough, a sleek black drone zipped across the sky, scanning the buildings nearby. Jack's heart began to pound. "That's not one of ours." "That thing's armed." Thera clenched her fists. "They've found us." Rhea touched her own neck. "We still carry the trackers deep inside our bodies. They know we're awake." Jack looked shocked. "Trackers inside you?" "Yes," Rhea said calmly. "Buried near the spine, placed there in the prison. If we don't remove them, they'll send more than drones next time." Jack rubbed his face. Okay. I'm just a mechanic, not a surgeon." Rhea stepped closer. "But you fix things right now, that's enough." Jack stared at her, then at his tools. He'd taken apart engines, rebuilt drones, even rewired life support systems. But this was different. Still, he didn't want to just sit and wait for death. "Fine," he said. "Let's get that tracker out." They cleared off the bench and Rhea lay down. Jack set up his tools and connected Grub to her vitals. Thera stood beside him, eyes watching every move. Jack's hands shook slightly as he activated the scanner. "Grub, show me the exact location." A 3D image appeared. "Tracker located. Vertebrae T7, 4.2 centimeters deep. Foreign alloy detected." Jack took a breath. "Okay, let's do this." He worked carefully, cutting through the outer skin and reaching the metal. Rhea didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. 10 minutes later, Jack removed a tiny black chip no bigger than a fingernail. As soon as it left her body, the lights on the drone outside turned red and it flew off at high speed. Rhea sat up slowly. "That was fast." Jack held up the chip. "This is what's been hunting you." Rhea nodded. "Yes, and now they'll come harder, stronger." Jack stared at the door, mind spinning. "I need to know the truth. What were you all running from?" Thera stepped forward. "Not what. Who?" She pointed toward the sky. "They're called hunters. They serve the overmind. And we We escape from being turned into something we're not. Jack backed away. What does that mean? Rhea's voice was quiet. They don't just keep you locked up. They change you, rewrite your mind, make you forget who you are. We were lucky to get out. At that moment, the third capsule beeped. Another one was waking up. Jack looked at the door, then at his tools, then at the sky. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was the only human standing between freedom and capture. And more was coming. The garage felt different now, more alive, more dangerous. Jack had gone from working on broken tools to removing alien trackers. And now a third woman from the pod was waking up. The capsule hissed and opened slowly. Steam poured out, and the woman inside gasped as if taking her first breath in years. She was different from the others. Her skin was a deep red with faint glowing lines running along her arms. Her golden eyes opened sharply, and she stood without help, strong and calm. Rhea introduced her quietly. This is Vareen. She's our strongest. Vareen looked around and nodded once. The mechanic? She asked, pointing to Jack. Jack gave a half smile. Yeah, I guess that's me. You have good hands, she said simply. You pulled the tracker clean. Thera gave a small nod too, the closest thing to approval Jack had gotten from her since she woke up. Jack didn't know whether to feel proud or afraid. Before he could reply, Grubb let out a sharp warning. Unidentified vehicle approaching. Airborne. Speed 900 kilometers per hour. Scanning mode active. Rhea's face turned cold. It's here. What's here? Jack asked, stepping back toward the door. Thera answered, voice flat. A hunter. Jack moved to the window and saw it descending silently from the orange Martian sky. It was massive, black, and shaped like a needle with wings. It didn't land. It hovered. Then it released a figure tall, armored in dark silver, glowing red from the chest and eyes. The hunter floated down and hit the ground softly, its red eyes scanning in all directions. Jack's chest tightened. Is that a drone? No, Rhea said. It's worse. A hunter is part machine, part something else. Built to track, capture, or kill. Jack ran to seal the garage doors. Can we fight it? Vareen cracked her knuckles. We don't. Run. Rhea stepped toward the center of the garage. We stand. Together. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The power went out. Grubb switched to backup mode. Emergency battery activated. Motion detected near east wall. The hunter was here. Then, the wall exploded inward. The blast threw Jack off his feet. Dust and debris filled the air. Through the broken wall, the hunter stepped into the garage. It didn't speak. It didn't hesitate. It moved like it had done this 100 times before. Vareen charged first, her arms lighting up with energy. She struck the hunter with a powerful punch that made the ground shake. It stumbled but didn't fall. Thera leaped in next, using quick strikes to the legs. Sparks flew. Jack grabbed his broken blaster, adjusted the coil, and fired. It worked just once, but the bolt hit the hunter in the shoulder and slowed it for a second. The hunter responded with force. A red beam shot from its arm and hit Thera, throwing her across the room. She groaned but stayed conscious. Rhea shouted, keep it distracted. Jack, find the backup cannon. Jack ran to the storage locker, ripping it open. Inside was a small energy cannon he had found years ago. It was old, heavy, and unstable, but it was powerful. He aimed and fired. The blast hit the hunter in the chest. It paused. Sparks burst from its armor. Then Vareen and Rhea struck together, Rhea with a shockwave, Vareen with a spinning kick that landed on its head. The hunter dropped to one knee. Jack recharged the cannon and fired again. This time, the bolt hit the hunter's face. With a loud screech of static, the hunter fell. Smoke rose from its body. The garage was silent. Grubb scanned the fallen enemy. Hostile terminated. Signal still. Transmitting. Rhea moved to the broken body, reached inside, and pulled out a glowing red chip. This is their beacon. It tells the others where we are. Jack stared at it. So, now they all know. Rhea nodded. Yes, and they'll send more. Vareen helped Thera to her feet. We need to leave this place. We're sitting targets now. Jack looked around at what used to be his garage. Holes in the wall. Tools scattered. Smoke and burn marks. His peaceful life was gone. He had bought a pod for $1 and now the galaxy was after him. He looked at Rhea. What do we do now? She met his eyes. We fight. We run. We survive. Together. Outside, the Martian wind blew dust across the land, and far above, hidden among the stars, more hunters were already on their way. Jack didn't waste time. The moment the hunter hit the ground, smoking and sparking, he grabbed what tools and gear he could. His garage was ruined, and staying here meant death. Rhea, Thera, and Vareen moved quickly, collecting supplies while Grubb scanned the hunter's remains. The robot's voice buzzed softly, warning, "Tracker core active. Location signal transmitting to external host." Rhea stepped beside Jack and looked at the glowing red chip she had pulled from the hunter's chest. "This is how they find us. Each hunter has one, and now we can follow it back to its source." She turned to Thera. "Can we track the signal?" Thera nodded, her arm still stiff from the hunter's attack. "It's not far, less than 100 kilometers. Deep in the Mars Badlands." Jack looked up. "That's a dead zone. No satellites. No drones. Not even miners go there." "Exactly," Rhea said. "That's why they chose it." Within an hour, Jack's old 6-wheeled rover was loaded and ready. He drove while the 3 women rode silently, watching the sky. Grubb sat near the front, scanning for movement. The Martian Badlands were silent and strange, filled with red cliffs, deep craters, and long shadows. No one lived here. No one wanted to. And now Jack was starting to understand why. By late evening, the rover reached the edge of a high ridge. Grubb beeped. "Signal origin, 800 meters west. Surface structure detected." Jack parked the rover and got out. In the distance, a dark shape rose from the dust, thin and tall, like a black tower made of metal. It pulsed faintly with red light. "That's it," Rhea whispered. Before they could move, Kira, still recovering, stepped out of the rover. Jack looked at her in surprise. "You should be resting." "I feel stronger now," she said softly. "The Sentinel's grip is gone. I'm ready." Vareen squinted at the tower. "It's too quiet." Jack checked his blaster. "That's what scares me." The 4 women spread out while Jack and Grubb stayed behind to monitor the rover. Rhea and Vareen approached the tower, moving fast and silent. The red light on the tower grew brighter. Suddenly, Grubb's voice cut through the silence. "Alert! Multiple hostiles approaching. Concealed units 20 meters underground." Too late. The ground exploded. From beneath the sand, sleek machines burst upward, black drones with glowing red eyes, spinning blades, and razor limbs. Hunters weren't the only ones guarding the tower. These were kill drones, faster, smaller, and deadly in packs. Jack fired the blaster. Vareen smashed one with her bare hands. Thera created a shockwave that threw 2 into the rocks. But they kept coming. 10, then 15, maybe more. Jack shouted, "There's too many. We need to destroy the tower." Rhea pointed to Kira. "She can disable it. The beacon responds to mind energy." Jack turned to Kira. "Can you do it?" Kira nodded once and ran toward the base of the tower, avoiding drones as she moved. She raised her hand, and a glowing cube formed in her palm, the same beacon core they had taken from the crashed pod. She held it against the tower. The red light flickered. The drones paused. Then something happened that none of them expected. The tower spoke. It wasn't a voice, not really. It was thoughts, echoes, feelings, cold and sharp. "You'll fail. You are alone. We are many." Kira cried out, holding her head. Rhea shouted, "Block it out. You're stronger than them." Vareen shielded her from an incoming drone as Kira screamed and pushed harder. The cube glowed bright blue. The tower flickered again. Then the red light died. All the drones collapsed instantly, their eyes dark. The silence was complete. Jack ran to Kira, who had dropped to her knees. Her skin was pale, but she was breathing. "You did it," he whispered. She looked up. "I saw everything. The hunters, the overmind, the prison, the experiments. It started somewhere else, not Mars, not the prison. It started on Earth." Rhea turned sharply. "Earth?" Kira nodded weakly. "I saw a tower, a lab. Human scientists working with machines that weren't human." Jack sat back in shock. "Wait, you're saying the Omega prison was built with help from Earth?" "Yes," Kira said. "The first signal was sent from there." Rhea stood up slowly. "Then it's not over. If Earth is involved, That's where we go next. Jack looked out across the dead land, the broken tower behind them. He had bought a junk pod for $1 now. That decision had led him into a war that stretched beyond planets. A war that might have started back on Earth. The journey back from the tower was silent. No one spoke, even Grub. Jack's usually chatty robot assistant stayed quiet. The truth Kira had uncovered from the tower about Earth's involvement in the Omega-17 prison left them all shaken. Jack drove the rover slowly, his eyes on the road but his mind elsewhere. He kept thinking about Earth, his home, the place he had left behind to escape a life of debt and disappointment. Now, it seemed Earth was part of something far more dangerous. Back at the ruined garage, Jack helped Kira into a resting pod. She was exhausted, her body still weak from connecting to the tower's signal. Rhea stood by the workbench, placing the deactivated red beacon core next to the others they had collected. Grub rolled over and projected a scan above the table. Remaining signal traces detected. Origin, Earth. Coordinates encrypted. Jack looked at Rhea. Are you sure we want to follow this trail? If Earth is involved, that means the whole system might be compromised. Rhea nodded. We don't have a choice. If Earth helped build Omega, they might be building something worse. Thera stepped forward, her arm fully healed now. We can't just run. We've been hiding for too long. Vareen cracked her knuckles. Let's bring the fight to them. Jack sighed. Then we need a ship. Rhea turned to him with a strange look. We already have one. We just have to wake it up. Grub beeped unexpectedly. Buried object detected below garage floor. Depth 30 meters. Material matches organic alien technology. Jack's eyes widened. You're saying there's a ship under us? Rhea smiled. Not just a ship. Our ship, hidden here during our escape. The next several hours were spent digging. Jack, Grub, and the women cleared rock and metal until they reached something smooth, dark purple, and slightly warm to the touch. The surface pulsed like it was alive. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was something more. When Kira touched it, even in her weak state, the surface lit up with soft blue lines and a hum filled the air. It recognizes us, she said softly. It's waiting. With a hiss, a ramp extended from the ship, and they stepped inside. The interior was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The walls shifted with movement. The ship seemed to breathe. Lights responded to thought, and every system hummed quietly. Ready for use. It didn't have controls like human ships. Instead, it connected directly to the mind. Jack looked around in awe. This is incredible. Rhea placed a hand on a glowing console. This ship saved us once. Now it'll take us to the truth. Thera connected a small beacon core to the ship's navigation panel. Coordinates began to appear, numbers, symbols, and images flashing quickly. Grub translated. Destination, Earth, stealth mode enabled. Launch readiness, 97%. Before takeoff, Rhea stood in front of the team. Once we arrive, we don't know what we'll find. The people who built Omega won't let us walk in freely. We'll have to be fast, silent, and smart. Jack nodded. Let's finish what we started. The ship lifted from beneath the garage, scattering dust and debris as it rose into the sky. The old garage Jack's home collapsed behind them, the broken roof and shattered walls disappearing under red Martian wind. There was no going back now that as the ship broke through Mars' atmosphere. A faint signal blinked on the main screen. A message. It wasn't in text. It wasn't even a voice. It was a thought, sharp, cold, and direct. You have made a mistake. Return the fugitives or Earth will fall. Jack clenched his fists. The overmind. Rhea nodded grimly. It knows we're coming. Kira opened her eyes from the healing pod. Let it wait. We're not afraid anymore. The ship entered hyperspace, leaving the red planet behind. Ahead, Earth floated like a blue jewel in the darkness. But peace was an illusion. Somewhere on that planet, the creators of Omega-17 were still working in the shadows, controlling, building, and hiding the truth from billions. Jack stared out the window. He had bought a broken pod for $1 now. He was heading home, not as a mechanic but as a fighter. The ship descended into Earth's upper atmosphere, cloaked in stealth mode, completely invisible to satellites and radar. Jack stood in the command chamber beside Rhea as the blue and green planet came into full view. Earth looked peaceful, oceans shining under the sunlight, clouds drifting slowly over familiar lands. But Jack didn't feel peace. He felt tension, building in his chest like a storm was waiting for them down there. Grubb's voice broke the silence. Coordinates received. Hidden facility located. Location, Western Desert Region. Surface appears empty. Subterranean structure detected. Jack narrowed his eyes. That's government land. No-fly zone. I didn't even know anything was out there. Rhea stepped closer to the screen. They made sure no one knew. That's how Omega was born. Kira, now fully recovered from her contact with the tower, joined them on the bridge. This is where it all started. The first signals, the first link between Earth and the machines. The ship landed quietly at night, just beyond a dry canyon. The desert stretched for miles. The air hot and still. Jack and the women stepped out, each of them suited in slim, adaptive armor the ship had created. It adjusted to their bodies, responded to thought, and protected them without limiting movement. They moved together through the dark, silent desert. Eventually, they found it just as Grubb predicted. A small, flat piece of metal, no bigger than a manhole cover, buried in the sand. At first, Jack thought it was nothing. But when Vareen touched it, the sand shifted, and a circular hatch opened with a soft hiss. A hidden elevator rose. Jack stared. They built this right under everyone's feet. Rhea nodded. This isn't a government base. It's private, secret, protected by people who believe in control above truth. The team entered the elevator, and it dropped deep underground faster, and deeper than Jack expected. No signs, no lights, just cold silence. At last, it stopped. A hallway stretched ahead, lit by dim red lights, that they moved slowly, careful and quiet. Then the voice returned, a voice not spoken aloud, but pressed directly into their thoughts. You were warned. You brought war to your world. Jack froze. It's the Overmind. Kira whispered. It's inside this place. Suddenly, the lights blinked. A door slid open and a figure stepped out. At first, Jack thought it was human. It wore a long lab coat, and its face was calm. But something was wrong. Its eyes glowed faint red, and its voice sounded split, as if layered over another. Welcome home, it said. Rya stepped forward. You betrayed your own kind. Helped the machines capture us. Why? The man smiled coldly. We didn't betray humanity. We improved it. We gave the machines what they needed, perfect subjects. In return, we received knowledge, power, control. Jack was disgusted. You turned people into prisoners. Lab rats. Prisoners become weapons. You were meant to serve a higher purpose. Rhea's fists clenched. We choose our own purpose. Then the figure changed. Its skin melted away, revealing metal underneath its body, twisting into something unnatural. A sentinel, not a hunter, not a drone. This was worse. A mind-piercing machine wrapped in a human shape. Vareen charged first, striking fast. Her fist hit the creature's chest, sending it flying through the hallway wall. Jack pulled out his plasma cannon and fired. The blast hit the wall, collapsing metal around the sentinel. But the voice still came. You think this is over? You are one cell in a body too large to kill. Thera raised her hand. I can feel others, more minds, connected below. Jack looked at Rhea. What does that mean? They're running the Overmind from this base, controlling multiple sentinels. This isn't just a lab, it's a command center. Grubb beeped urgently. Warning, multiple power spikes detected. Energy surge in main chamber. Overmind protocol initializing. We have to move, Rhea said. We end this here. The team ran forward, past steel doors and long hallways, until they reached the main chamber. Inside was a massive glowing sphere, suspended in midair by thick cables. Around it floated dozens of human-like figures, scientists, guards, each one frozen, connected to the machine by wires in their heads. Jack stared in horror. Are they alive? Kira whispered, not anymore. The Overmind doesn't kill the body, it erases the person. Rhea turned to Jack. There's one chance. We destroy the core. It will sever the connection. Jack stepped forward, cannon charged. Then let's do it. The core of the Overmind floated in the center of the room like a beating heart made of light. And metal, it pulsed with red energy, held up by thick black cables that snaked into the walls, the ceiling, and even into the bodies of the people. Around it once human scientists now reduced to empty vessels. The air was cold and heavy. Jack stood with his blaster aimed, finger on the trigger, but he didn't fire yet. Something about the core made his chest tighten. It was like standing inside a living brain, and it was looking back at him. Rhea, Thera, Vareen, and Kira stood at his side, silent and ready. None of them had to speak. They all knew this was the moment. Either they destroyed the Overmind, or the war would never end. Suddenly, the room trembled. The Overmind began to speak again, not in words, but through emotion and thought. The voice filled Jack's mind, cold and cruel. You will lose. You are nothing. A mechanic. A mistake. Jack's knees buckled for a second. He saw flashes of his past, failing school, losing jobs, leaving Earth as a failure. But he pushed back. I was nothing, Jack said aloud, until I opened that pod. Rhea stepped forward and raised both hands. Bright blue energy formed between her palms. She fired at the cables above, severing one with a loud crack. Sparks flew. The Overmind screeched a high sound that made the lights flicker. Vareen leapt into the air, landing hard on a control panel. With a roar, she drove her fists through the console, smashing it to pieces. Thera ran to the far side of the room and used her energy to create a pulse that shattered the metal floor beneath two of the connected bodies. They collapsed, their wires burning out. Kira stood still with her eyes closed. Her power was different. She focused not on destroying the Overmind, but on freeing the people inside it. She reached into their thoughts, gently breaking the connection. Some of the figures began to move again, waking from their prison. But the Overmind fought back. The core grew brighter, and red energy burst outward like a wave. Jack was thrown against a wall, hitting the floor hard. Blood dripped from his forehead. The Overmind spoke again. You cannot stop progress. You cannot kill evolution. Jack struggled to stand. His vision blurred, but he saw his blaster lying nearby. He crawled to it, fingers shaking. Grubb's voice came through the ship's comms. Jack, the ship has charged one final energy pulse. You must insert the beacon core into the Overmind. It will overload. Jack looked down at the small glowing cube. Kira had carried the same beacon. They had used to trace the signal across space. He pulled it from his belt. Rhea shouted, "Now, Jack, now." Jack ran forward as the floor cracked beneath his feet. The Overmind's energy tried to stop him. Waves of heat and pressure pressing against his body, but he didn't stop. He leapt into the air and slammed the cube into the Overmind's core. The reaction was instant. A massive surge of blue light exploded outward. The red glow shattered. The Overmind screamed a horrible, high-pitched sound and then went silent. One by one, the cables snapped and fell. The people hanging from the ceiling dropped to the ground. The room went completely dark. Then lights returned, but they were soft, peaceful. It was over. Hours later, emergency responders arrived. Real Earth authorities this time, not fake guards or secret tech teams. The hidden facility had been exposed. Jack and the women gave their statements, carefully revealing just enough. The truth about the Overmind and Omega would be kept quiet for now, but they had shut it down for good. Jack stood outside the ruins, looking up at the sky. He breathed in Earth's air for the first time in years. It smelled different than Mars, more alive. Rhea walked up beside him. You did well. Jack smiled. I didn't do it alone. Kira added, you believed in something when no one else did. Vareen chuckled. You also bought us for $1, so technically we're yours. Jack laughed. Best deal I've ever made. Thera spoke last. It's not over. Somewhere out there, other cells like Omega might still exist. Jack nodded slowly. Then we find them. Weeks later, in deep space, the ship flew through the stars again. Jack stood at the controls, now a skilled pilot, no longer just a mechanic. Behind him, the women trained, scanned, and searched, not for escape anymore but for justice. $1 had started all of this, a forgotten pod, a lost crew. And now, a purpose asterisk.